Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. My name is Larry Sashin, and I'm going to be your host today. We've got a group of people here to discuss something that's always intrigued me. You know, we've all been through the pandemic, the lockdowns, the slowdowns, the shortages. And during that time, I've been a student of business. And as you know, I wrote earlier, some people just floated around, tread water. Other people sank. And some people tried to go with the flow, but some people took the hit, assessed their strengths and weaknesses, saw an opening and moved into that opening and changed the way they did business, and in a way changed the way we do business. So on that note, I'd like to start introducing people. First, we'll go with Stratus.
Hi, I'm Stratus Morphogen, owner of Brooklyn Chop House, Brooklyn Dumpling Shop, a bunch of other brands, and author of Be a Disruptor and Damn Good Dumplings. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stratus. Chase.
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm a founder and baker of the Hudson Oven, a small cottage industry bakery in the lower Hudson Valley, just north of Manhattan. And we're focusing on a buy online, pick up at locker bread distribution model, direct to consumer.
Thank you, Chase. And John.
Hi, I'm John Farrelly. I'm VP of Customer Development at Viking Pure Solutions, which is basically a startup of cleaning technology.
Okay. Like I said, some people invented new ways. Some people took existing products and made them better and moved them into an area. Stratus, you have a very interesting story. You had ongoing businesses until the pandemic. And can you tell everybody what happened?
Larry, before you start, you haven't introduced Fred.
Oh, Fred.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you. I'm Fred Clashman, editor and publisher of Total Food Service. Thanks everybody for joining.
And we've already introduced Mike. We just short for time today, Mike. Sorry.
Good.
Okay, Stratus.
Yeah, so I had, for 17 years, I've owned Chinese restaurants, most notably Philippe Chow. I sold that in 2014. Then I came up with a concept of Chop House that I thought would be interesting, especially when my wife doesn't eat meat. And every time we go to like a Peter Luger or the Palm, which I do love, if you didn't eat beef, you were kind of like the orphan. And so what I did was I married Beijing Chinese with an American steakhouse, both staying true to the culture. And then we created the concept of LSD, salt and pepper, ginger, garlic, lobster, married with dry aged steak, 35 days, and with authentic Peking duck, LSD, lobster, steak, and duck. When it got down to the dumplings, we started marrying traditional sandwiches with dumplings, traditional soups, like French onion soup and lobster bisque in Zhao Bang, which is traditional Chinese soup dumplings. And then with bacon cheeseburger and lamb gyro. So the concept was great. We opened up to gangbuster numbers. And in March 2020, we didn't have a business anymore. We went from about $9 million a year to about, I don't know, $5,000 a week in deliveries. And at that point, we started to pivot. And what we did was we started donating meals. We donated over 8,900 meals to 19 hospitals with the help of Cisco, Junior's Cheesecake, and Boss Water. And that was our purpose early on during the pandemic. Then I put my capitalist hat on and I made the largest 2 deals in New York City, 25,000 square feet in Times Square with Brooklyn Chop House and 14,000 square feet in Greenwich Village, which I signed in May 2020. And people thought I was absolutely out of my mind. And actually, when I signed the lease in Times Square on that Friday in June, middle of June 2020, I was the only person in Times Square at Friday at 3 p.m. And that's how scary it was for me to sign a lease for 25,000 feet. And I'm the only one in Times Square. There wasn't even a cop. Everything was completely boarded up and shut down. But I knew New York City was resilient and I knew we would come back. And with that, we also launched Brooklyn Dumpling Shop, which was bringing back the automat. And our automat's a little different than what Horn and Harder did, which I call the Model T and I call our version the Tesla. It's all controlled by the consumer smartphone. The consumer smartphone places the order, schedules the order, looks through the menus, and then picks a time, arrives at the shop, scans their phone, and basically it's a completely 100% contactless experience, but everything made fresh to order, and really embracing technology where we've basically now reduced our payroll from the industry norm of 32% down to about 18%.
Great, great. Chase,
Yeah.
you went the other way.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
I'd say we're still branches on the same tree type of thing. I'm a much smaller branch, I would say, more of a twig, but it was more of a bootstrap model. So what I was dealing with was, I was a at-home baker through actually since 2016, and I was still working full-time on a farm up here in Westchester. I'm really interested in agriculture personally. So yeah, I was making bread, but I had no way to get it out to people. I didn't have any sort of traditional retail front. So I started researching different models of distribution. I wanted to go direct to consumer because I wasn't making enough volume to warrant a wholesale account. So I started working with small businesses in the area, coffee shops, antique shops, anybody that I could basically open an account with, and they would agree to host an old antique locker. So I did a lot of research and found the right lockers. Actually, they're old 1940s filing cabinets that are commonly used in courthouses. And I'm bringing them back to the state of New York, which is where they were originally manufactured. So it's very fun to collect these old, beautiful antique units, and then give them a new home and a new use and a new way and a new environment. And basically, I'm doing a similar thing to what Stratus is doing, except for much less tech involved. However, that is sort of on our horizon. That's something that I'm trying to figure out. Of course, it takes a little bit more cash flow and economics to pull that off. But for now, it's a really nice model. So yeah, you order online, very similar to Stratus, and we send you a locker number at the pickup location that you chose. And it's pickup once a week on Friday.
Let me break in for a second.
Sure.
Tell the people what your original concept was, the original bread box, and what you're doing now, what's caught on in Westchester County.
Okay, so yeah, the original, before I came up with a distribution like locker model, like I'm currently doing, I still do it occasionally, but I'll bake 60 to 80 loaves of bread. This is sort of a marketing model for us, and we'll put it in an old antique cabinet and stick it in a different location around Westchester. This is to generate buzz and to break into new markets geographically, so that people can learn about our bread and actually try it. It's sort of like a free trial, although it's still an honor system. We hope that you would leave what you think it's worth to support the next bake and have it roll over. But if we get good feedback and we get a good response in an area, then we start to hit the ground and try to open up a new pickup point in that location. So it's extremely bootstrapped and it's extremely guerrilla style of marketing. But that's a way that we've been able to develop a small following in Westchester and people that really enjoy the bread. And people that are willing to go to a random cabinet in a coffee shop to pick up our loaf of bread because they've learned to love it.
So you've gone from 0 to how many cabinets in right now?
Currently, we have 6, and 2 more just arrived yesterday from South Carolina. They just got shipped in. So I'm hoping to open those up in the much more northern Westchester area, where I've actually been collecting a lot of demand. So this is all, it's all very strategic. I'm taking pins. I actually have a form on my website which collects locations where people want a locker. And I drop them on a map, and I can see where there's clusters of interest. And then that's how
I have a question. So one of the conflicts that I hear right away is, I'd love to hear it from Stratus. What is hospitality? Is it people coming into a restaurant again, or is it people taking product out, or is it a blend and a mix of both? And how do you read the market?
I mean, hospitality has many definitions. I mean, when you come to Brooklyn Chop House, it's fine dining with a very labor-intensive model. We do use technology and software like on ordering and keeping our food costs in control. But hospitality is speaking to the customer. I mean, Brooklyn Dumpling Shop was designed to speak to the TikTok generation. I mean, I have a 13 and a 14-year-old daughter. They don't even want to speak to me. I mean, they live on their phones. And you know what? So with Brooklyn Dumpling Shop, we created a brand speaking to them. And that's our target audience. You can order off your phone, control the whole experience off your phone. That's exactly what my teenage daughters do today. So is that hospitality? Absolutely. It is hospitality, but it's not the one that, at 54 years old, it's not the one that we were brought up with. We were brought up with, service and this. These kids don't want to speak to you. They want to just walk in, put their hand up. They know exactly what they're doing. Give them a smartphone. And basically the smartphone becomes the cashier. The smartphone becomes the POS system. The smartphone becomes the self-ordering kiosk. All this stuff is going to be outdated very shortly because this new generation that's coming up, they want to work off their smartphone. And why not give a restaurant that speaks to them? And that's what we did at Brooklyn Dumpling Shop. And actually, I'm introducing the automats to my fine dining restaurants as well, because I'm tired of these drivers walking into my fine dining restaurant not dressed properly. And you know what? There's a lot of consumers that don't want to get dressed up to pick up a pickup order. They don't mind just going with their sweatpants. And wouldn't it be cool if they can just order online, scan their phone like an ATM machine, which their automat now is basically right on the sidewalk, flush with the building like an ATM machine. How cool would that be, where you can just go pick it up and not enter the restaurant, and you don't feel like you have to get dressed up to pick a pickup order? And the key part is, I don't have 5 people stapling bags saying Joe gets this, Hugh gets that, Mike gets this, Uber Eats gets this. No, it goes from the runner of the kitchen directly to the back of the automat. They put it in, they hit done, and then the QR code is sent via text message to the consumer or the delivery driver. And I just wiped out 5 jobs.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. One of the things we've now talked about distribution, we've talked about hospitality. We have a third person here who keeps his company keeps hospitality open. John, can you tell us a little bit about Viking Pure?
Sure, thanks, Larry. Just quick background myself. Before Viking Pure, for 25 years I was in the hospitality business in the quick service restaurants. My family, we own several McDonald's in New York City, so I understand what you guys are all speaking about. And as life does, it moved me into Viking Pure, this opportunity where we're a company that develops a science called electrolyzed water. And we're talking about disruptors today. With this pandemic and COVID, it was a terrible thing. But one of the good things that happened is that people became much more educated about chemicals and how we're cleaning, how we're disinfecting restaurants and hotels and all sorts of hospitality, and the awful side effects of those chemicals. Well, at Viking Pure, what we do is we create a cleaning and disinfecting solution that's completely toxin-free. It's comprised of water and salt, and it's the most effective cleaner and disinfectant there is in the world. The disinfectant is actually in your body. It's an amazing science. So everybody educated themselves on this pandemic, and we kind of took advantage. And we are to Larry's point, we're helping people we help people stay open throughout the pandemic, reopen now. And what's really interesting about this is what we're seeing with all our current customers and why we're getting so much more business is because people need to reintroduce that trust to their customers to be able to come in and know that their place is clean and disinfected. But now, again, because of the education of how bad these old chemicals were, they want to do it and know they're doing it in a clean, environmentally friendly way. And that's what we offer to people. And it's just that it's a fascinating time we're in right now. And I just appreciate being in the space.
Okay. All right. Stratus, you said you don't want people coming in. You don't want the workers coming into your, the delivery people coming into your fine dining restaurant. Tell us a little bit more about those boxes that you're putting in.
Yeah, so the automat basically that we created with Panasonic and Ondo RPI is basically, it's taking from the Horn and Hardart automat, but instead of putting coins in, you're using your smartphone for every action needed to pick up your order. And with the fine dining, my biggest beef is like at Brooklyn Chop House, I could have 5 or 6 delivery drivers that are not dressed properly, not hygienically sound, and they're in there with well-dressed people, and I'm like, I hate this. I actually sometimes find myself being rude and telling them, hey, just wait in the corridor and we'll bring it out to you. Well, I know with tech, and then I have 5 people stapling bags at $25 an hour. I don't need any of that. All I need is basically, the runner to bring it back to the automat. And I will tell you, for every 1 order that goes wrong, there's 2 orders that are got to be redone when it comes to delivery and takeout. 1 order means 2 mistakes. And again, when you take all that out and use and embrace technology, you really curb human error as well. And you're saving payroll. There's no loss to it. And the consumer has control through their phone, and they're getting updates, and they're getting your QR code, and they don't have to get dressed to do a pickup order. I mean, it's a win-win all around. And I'm excited about it. I just thought that the automat that we designed would be for Brooklyn Dumpling Shop. And basically, our software, works really well with fast food, because I believe that self-ordering kiosks that you see at all the McDonald's now, that will go by the way of the fax machine. They're already outdated, because when I have a hardware POS system, self-ordering kiosk, and my competition is a 10-cent Xerox copy of a QR code. Well, I got a problem. If that $10,000 self-ordering kiosk competition is the one-time $50 QR code and a 10-cent Xerox copy that I could put in a frame and put it there. Well, guess what? All the new Brooklyn Dumpling Shops, where we used to have 4 self-ordering kiosks, now we're bringing it down to 1 to 2. And then the rest is QR codes in a frame. Because these kids know what a QR code is. They walk in and take a picture of it, and they could do the exact same thing out of that QR code than they could do out of that $10,000 self-ordering POS system.
Okay, Chase, you don't have the problem with hiring too many people. How are you interacting with, what is different the way you interact and get your orders? And where Stratus has taken his cue from the automat, you've taken your cue from the old milkman who came and delivered products to your door. You don't quite deliver to the door, but you delivered to an area. How do you deal with that?
Well, yeah, I'm the baker and distributor, and also my future wife, she's on the call here, Madison down there, is also now full-time. She's a trained pastry cook and an amazing chef, so she's been helping out a lot. Hopefully helping with distribution as well. So after baking bread, I go around and deliver to all 6 locations at the moment.
But what about the outreach? How do people know about you? They don't just find your order.
Right. So, thankfully through my little thing that I do on Sunday mornings, I've accumulated a nice little list of subscribers that I can send an email blast out to, some, cult followers. I actually recognize some of the names on the call here. And they are, I just send an email once or twice a week and tell them to pre-order. They get to choose their pickup location from a drop-down menu. But believe me, Stratus, I'm hearing every word you're saying, and that system with the QR codes, I'm also very into QR codes myself. Each locker has its own one on it, and I love the fact that you can track how many scans it's had, so you can keep track of how much interest there is in that space. It's just a matter of capital and getting over that sort of first leap to breaking into that locker market. But yeah, it's just email.
Larry. Yes.
Larry, I'd like to hear what Peter Herrero has to say. He's sort of right in the middle of this, and represents sort of a blend of somewhere between where these two guys are. Peter, what's your read? And I guess the real question is, nobody's more dedicated to the staff than you are. Is this still a people business, or are we moving away from it?
I think if you listen to everyone, we are a people business. We are a people business, but our interaction is always hospitable. We are meeting our clients where they want to be. It's like the old Wayne Gretzky line that I love. What made him so great? He didn't skate to where the puck is. He skated to where the puck was going. If you hear all the panelists, they're going where the market's going. The hard part is being number one there is great. It's lonely. It really is lonely. And I give a lot of kudos to all the panelists. They're going out where no hospitalian has been before. And it's a bumpy road. I always love when we talk about the definition of hospitality. It is, to me, to you, and to everybody, what it means. And at different times of the day, at different times of the day, different places, different mindsets, it means different things. But how cool is it? I'm listening, and we're all either quick service or high touch. I'm dying to get in the game. I just don't know how. So it's so cool to be running an organization from an iPhone. That's our face to our clients. I love the bread idea. I'm going to look up when we get off of this. I want some bread.
Okay.
That is so cool.
Thank
It's taking, I guess, the wheat and the baker, and we find common ground. That really is what hospitality is. Common ground in a polite manner.
Yeah. Mike, do you have a question from the audience?
I do. So actually, it's a good segue from Peter talking about bread and Chase. So one of the questions is, when you've set up that honor system for bread, do people leave enough money to fund your baking?
Yeah, so that was also another really interesting and fun metric to look at after doing a Sunday bake. It's hard to tell sometimes because there is just a cash box in there. So people, you can tell when they bundle money, you're not really sure who is an individual donator. But we also have a QR code to a Venmo account, and we can track those pretty well. So I have a spreadsheet, and we have an average on what people are willing to pay. And it's really interesting to see how that average varies based on where you put it. It's just data, and it's just fact. It's not, you're not making any judgment or anything like that. Yeah, so people they leave actually generally more than you would see somebody charge for a traditional loaf of bread in a retail store. It seems to be that if you give people the complete freedom to be as honest as they can, they generally are, depending on how it's presented to them. If there's no input at all, people seem to be more honest. Of course, we're in certain areas of Westchester, and I don't know how it would do down in the concrete jungle.
So what is the range, if you don't mind saying, in terms of what people leave? What's the range?
Well, between $6 and $15
a loaf.
Well, actually, I've seen as low as $2. Or I've seen people who have just happened to find this cabinet in the park one day, and they run back to their car and take their pennies out of their cup holder and throw it because they don't have anything, but they wanted to give something, which is great. You probably have a customer for life there. They're probably going to take down your email, and then I follow up. This is where I was trying to follow up and get them as a customer. That's where the locker system for distribution comes in.
But John,
So one of the common elements in this is how these products get marketed.
Yeah.
Stratus, I'm curious, you've been at this a long time, and in the book, talk a little bit about how marketing a restaurant, marketing a menu has changed and evolved.
Yeah, I was just going to tell Chase, I said, even if you make $5, put it on Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
Waze, and Google.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my little story is with Brooklyn Chop House. There are steakhouses in Times Square that have been there for 80 years. You go anywhere 15 miles around Brooklyn Chop House in Times Square, and you put up any word you want: steakhouse, chop house, Times Square, best steakhouse, blah, blah, blah. We have about 2,000 words that we own on Google. And you put any of those words up, well, guess what's coming to the top of the screen? Brooklyn Chop House, Times Square. We started with $100 a month, and now we're up to $8,000 a month, because what we're seeing is per $1,000, we get about 160 reservations. That's reservations. The average is 3.5 people. We get about 400 people asking for directions. We get about 188 phone calls. And we basically get click-throughs into our social media in the thousands per $1,000. So as we've been for the last 4 years, we started with 100 and now we're at $8,000 a month, because we see the analytics and the data. And our business is probably, for every $1,000 we spend, we probably generate about $80,000 in sales. So why not keep going? Our mission is probably to get to about 20,000 a month. It's a 25,000 square foot restaurant. So it has 700 seats. So we're going big because the analytics are supporting it. But for even smaller businesses, what we're saying is, if you have $100 when you post on Instagram, put $100 on it and promote it, because you'll see huge returns for that $100. And we're seeing that now with Brooklyn Dumpling Shop as well. We own up to about 8,000 keywords on both restaurants. And with Instagram and Facebook, the analytics are crazy. And with Waze, if you go over the Brooklyn Bridge, you see a Brooklyn Chop House digital billboard. Remember in the old days when you clean garbage for like a mile, they would put a billboard up and say, "This is sponsored by ABC cleaners. Well, we've got a digital billboard on the Brooklyn Bridge, and you click on that and it brings you down to all my information from the menu to the social media. Anyone that walks or goes over the Brooklyn Bridge sees Brooklyn Chop House. That cost me $1,000 a month. If you think about it in old world terms about advertising, I mean, why would I advertise anywhere else? I mean, it's the Brooklyn Bridge where 1 million people walk over the bridge every month, and they're seeing my billboard, and I'm literally 30 feet from the Brooklyn Bridge. So I say it to all small business owners, and I do mention it in my book. I don't care if your budget is $100 a month or $100,000 a month. If you're not doing Facebook, Instagram, and Waze, and Google, and have a decent SEO guy, I've got a great guy named Sean. I'd be willing to share him with you as well. Sean got me on my search terms. Like I said, there are steakhouses that have been there for 80 years, and they're buried where Brooklyn Chop House Times Square is right on the top. And that's because of SEO. He puts up a lot of photographs. He puts up a lot of stuff that makes it sticky. And we're finding huge success in that. And I got to tell you, it's a dream. Because back in the day, you'd buy a page in the New York Post, it'd cost you 20 grand or $15,000. You know, you don't know what happened. You don't know who showed up. But if you get something viral on TikTok, because TikTok is now the new ad spend that we're doing with TikTok. You get anything going that can push $100 per post, you'll see amazing results.
Okay, John, I have a question for you, John. You said your family has, what is it, 9 McDonald's?
Yes.
9 McDonald's. How did you migrate from McDonald's? What drew you into the Viking Pure? Because people have to hear about the technology of this thing and how it keeps things going.
Well, as I said earlier, as life happens, as it does, it happens in different ways. And a friend of mine introduced me to this company that he started up and began about 5 to 6 years ago. And knowing what industry I was in, and knowing that I dealt with a lot of chemicals, and I'm listening to these stories, and I see the balance that I used to go through of Stratus, these new people, these young kids who only want to see the digital billboards. But I also keep hearing everybody mentioning, you know, that you don't want these people walking in for takeout while you have fine dining going on. So these old timers like myself and you, Stratus, I'm 54 as well. You know, we're different, but you have to balance because everybody has money. We want a piece of all of it. So I had to do that even in a quick service restaurant. But the big thing with me was we always had to keep a clean restaurant. As we know, in all hospitality, you have to be clean. I don't care how good you are. If you come in, you're not clean, those customers are not going to come back. You have them once and that's it. So that's what interested me about Viking Pure. And then diving into it, that is completely chemical and toxin free. And I could clean and sanitize better than what I was doing, because with these young kids and all they know, back to that generation, we were already starting to get, when I had the McDonald's, we were starting to get people saying, listen, I'm using these chemicals. Is it going to affect me in 20 years? So you could hear the lawsuits coming down the road. All right. So again, another thing that drew me to Viking Pure, that we can now clean, sanitize our restaurants and our hotels and all sorts of hospitality and do it without any chemicals. And so when I dove into Viking Pure, that's exactly what we do. We put a machine on premise. You make all the solutions you need, cleaning and disinfecting, without having to order. It's completely environmental friendly in every way, shape, or form. But the most important thing is these customers now coming into our restaurants, we have as customers, and saying, I'm coming back because I feel safe.
John, you make the chemicals you make the cleaning solutions out of what?
Just water, your regular tap water, and salt, just regular salt from Morton's. And that's all it takes. It's a science called electrolyzed water. So when you market that, and going back to what I'm hearing as well, marketing, all of our customers market this, that this is what they're using. And and you guys know, it's all about bringing existing customers back, but getting new customers word of mouth. And this helps in my little space. You guys do what you do.
Okay. All right. And Stratus, what kind of chemicals do you use in your place right now?
I mean, we use everything green. I got to tell you, man, I agree with you 100%, because John, I was a big talcum powder guy. I put powder on myself every day. for
Yeah.
20 years. And then I hear, oh, and I even spoke to Woody Johnson about it. I said, Woody, are you killing me? I saw him at a restaurant one night. I said, are you killing me? He's like, what are you talking about? I've been using Johnson & Johnson baby powder all my life. And now you guys are telling me you've been poisoning me.
Yeah.
So we had a laugh about it, but there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah.
So we try to go as green as possible. And I'm a big believer in salt. I mean, I grew up on that. I'm going to tell you something funny, which my mother used salt and water on everything.
Mhm.
She actually brushed her teeth with salt and water. And I used to be like, what are you doing, Mom? And she said, salt cleans everything.
Yeah,
And
except for the fact that salt also corrodes everything. And
Yeah,
John,
you
you
know,
left something out there?
But you know what, Larry, just to chime in on that, Dr. Atkins, when I was 40 pounds overweight, told me that I should eat bacon every day and cheese and steak every day. And I said, it's not good for my heart. And you know what he said? Being 40 pounds overweight is not good for your heart either.
Right.
And you know what? I did his diet for 6 months and I lost 40 pounds.
Yeah.
And guess what? My cholesterol and everything dropped because I lost the weight eating bacon.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and so there's a flip flop to that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So you talk about salt, and I said our solution is created with water and salt. There is no salt in the final solution. And what's interesting about this, because again, what you were just saying, Stratus, is what I mentioned earlier. Everybody's gotten so educated after this pandemic about chemicals in every way, shape, or form. My grandmother used to throw talcum powder in the room. That was it. That's what we lived on. And Lysol and all that stuff. We have no salt in our final solutions. What's so interesting is the disinfectant that our customers who are restaurants use. The killing agent, it's 99.98% water. The killing agent is called hypochlorous acid. It's what's in everybody's body right now. It's what your white blood cells produce to kill the bacteria in your body. So once you market this, it's a no-brainer for these guys, and it feels good because you're catching the young bucks and the old ones like us. And we're all realizing we have to get back to I forget, it was your mother, brush your teeth with water and salt. Go to the basics, and it's the best thing there is.
So while on the discussion, go ahead, Jeff.
No, to answer your question, everything we look at, we always look for a green solution, but
Yeah.
there's really not many things that, that really, we just go with it. Cisco will show me, we try to use everything green. After Roundup as well, I'm very
Yep.
careful what I even use at my house in the backyard when it comes to weeds.
Oof.
Everything is, and then they put the same crap on vegetables and fruit. So I don't know
Right.
where we're safe.
Yeah, this
Right.
green thing has become so convoluted. It just doesn't
Correct.
mean you have to dive into it.
I don't even know if I trust it, John. That's my point.
Yeah, I know.
So what were you saying, Fred?
I was going to say that obviously there's been a lot of government intervention on things like salt, et cetera.
Yeah.
I'd love to get the thoughts on, and now we're flipped into a battle over outdoor dining. Love to get panel's thoughts on what role city, state government plays as we go forward.
I just had a meeting with the DOT yesterday, and I told them to get the hell out of my restaurant because you know what? I just spent $100,000 in 2020 building 3 35-seat decks, and it was approved by the DOT. It was approved by the city, and I put electrical panels. I didn't put a shantytown shed.
Right.
I built beautiful structures, and now you want me to remove them? I don't know what court in the world is going to hear you, but I will take this to the Supreme Court. Hell no, am I removing these decks unless you pay me for them, because I'm not taking them down. You guys approved it. Now you want to take it away. It's never going to happen until I go to the furthest court possible. And you know what? Thank God I could take it that far, and I will. And the guy couldn't run out of there fast enough. DOT, New York City, the worst.
Yeah. So Chase.
Yeah.
Now you're hearing what John is saying with sanitization. You're hearing what Stratus is saying. What's going on in your mind right now don't take this wrong, as a mini disruptor?
Yeah.
As a mini disruptor, somebody's going off on a new path. What is going on in your mind as the representative of the business people out here who are listening to all these guys who have all these great ideas? What is filtering through to you?
Well, lots of thoughts. I mean, I obviously have a 10-year plan for like a 10-year vision. Don't necessarily want to share all the details of it.
No, you don't have to.
But it's basically, you know, a mature version of what I'm currently doing, transitioning away from these old antique lockers, which aren't secure units, to more, you know, high tech and computer driven, API driven pickup lockers. I love the sanitization aspect. I also wanted to make a note as far as blending hospitality into this locker pickup system. So, you know, these small businesses that I'm working with to establish pickup points are places that were suffering through COVID. And a large part of my pitch to, you know, allowing us to have a locker in their business was that we're going to generate traffic, very much like, you know, a Tesla charging station at a gas station. My understanding is that they don't actually, there's no cash that is exchanged through that agreement. It's just a mutually beneficial setup. So that's sort of my pitch to small coffee shops when I suggest that, hey, you don't sell fresh bread here, but would you like to? And it's really darn good bread as well. And it's all New York State flour, and it's sourdough, which is also really, you know, it's a headliner right now on social media. So yeah, I mean, my vision is, you know, having more high-tech lockers, which I even have. I just don't have the API to drive it. It's just an evolution here. Also, I'd like to point out that I really like this new definition for the term disruptor that you guys are actually putting it in like a nice light. You want to be a disruptor versus what my, you know, grade school teacher used to basically call me.
Yeah. No, I use the term disruptor. Disruptor. Yeah. I mean, in a way, you know, Peter Herrera, who just spoke before, Peter Herrera has what you walk in and you say, this is the traditional restaurant. But unlike everybody else in Westchester who was wringing their hands and saying, what am I going to do? What about my future? Where is it going? What's going on? Instead of doing that, oh, you're still here, Peter, unmute. Can you tell everybody what you decided to do after the first of, you know, well, you decided before, but you actually started working on it after the first of the year?
We are entrepreneurs. We believe in our communities, in our systems. What we did is I've been in a 90-year-old restaurant for the last 36 years, and we doubled down. We took all the design work that we've learned in the last 3 years and then the last 2 years of the pandemic and launched a multi-million-dollar renovation of a 15,000 square foot restaurant, bar, special event space, 4 kitchens, catering sales offices. We kind of brought it all together so that to help launch our hospitality group to the next level. We were very fortunate that our architect and the designer kind of pumped the brakes. We waited 2 years because we were going to do it first quarter 2020, but we learned so much. We changed the windows, we changed the HVAC, so many things to adapt to either al fresco dining, cold plasma generators in our HVAC. Some of it was loans, some of it was grants, but like everyone on this on this call today, I believe in hospitality. What it looks like in the next 5 years, we all know it will not look like it did today or yesterday, especially. But if we build in the flexibility, like all your panelists have, we're going to be there. It's going to open up. It's going to be the Roaring 20s sooner or later. We all believe it. The question is, are we going to be ready to do it? But in our space, we've built so much flexibility. We don't really have a banquet hall anymore like we've had for the last 36 years. We have a special event space. You know, it's taking everything that we're doing to the next level, making it as efficient as possible with the right LEDs, with the right color or the right Calvins, with the right integration so that we can control our HVAC and make it super efficient. It's amazing, dollar for dollar, what we all, I want to say research and invest in our overhead, our utilities, our HVAC, our lighting, the whole 9 yards, we get back. It took us 2 years, took us about $50,000. And at the end of the second year, we saved $80,000 in utilities. So, and that was, we just keep learning. We believe in hospitality. We just don't know where the puck is going to be in the next couple of years. But if we build in that flexibility, we will be ready for it.
How much of this is going to be driven by landlords and property owners in terms of how attractive restaurant tenants are?
I think that's a real conversation that you have to have with your landlord. Listen, I want to have this investment. I want to be here. So you're in the driver's seat. So I want to be here. I'd like to make an investment. If I do more volume, so it's a conversation, it's a negotiation. I'm going to make the investment. The property is going to be worth more. Can I have can I have a 5 or 10 year extension?
Yep.
Would you like to make an investment with me? So within a year or two, you could try to get, Fred, we asked our landlord to invest about, it started at $300,000. It ended up at $500,000. And when COVID is over and it's a gentleman's handshake, our rent will go up significantly, but the volume will be there. His building is worth more. I mean, we have a unique situation that my wife is my landlord, or so I should say she, but the property's worth more, the overhead's down, utilities are down. So there's actually more opportunity to do more business and that better margin. So we can pay more rent because we're paying less in utilities, less in maintenance.
Stratus, what's your read on the market? I mean, when you sat there in Times Square alone, we were in a very different place. Where are we today? What do you see in terms of real estate opportunity?
Well, the real estate opportunities in 2020 was our 2008 stock market crash. It was a real estate crash. I mean, Buffalo Wild Wings put $15 million into my space in 2016. They handed the keys back in March 2020. I took the keys May 2020. Out of the 15 million that they put in, I could use 14 million of it. I had Freeland Properties put up the other 3 million to convert it to a Brooklyn shop house. And then I put a COVID clause in there to answer a bunch of the questions that Peter just spoke about. I don't sign a lease without a COVID clause. What that means is that, you know, the corrupt insurance companies that are not going to satisfy business interruption claims because they want to use the excuse of a virus, which this was not a virus that shut us down. It was corrupt politicians that shut us down without following the science. That's a whole nother conversation. Putting that aside, my COVID clause says the following: if we get our hours reduced, or our capacity reduced by any form that business interruption insurance will not cover, well, guess what? My lease goes to an 8% straight lease of my sales. There is no base rent. If I drop from $20 million a year to $1 million, well, your rent is $80,000. And if we had stuff like that in our leases before COVID, a lot of these restaurants wouldn't have had to gone out of business, where landlords did not want to, you know, make amends or try to make something happen.
Yep.
They just saw it as a cash grab. Let's get my property back. These guys have 15 years on their lease. I know I'm paying $4,000 a month. I know I can get 10. Let me get them out of there, even if I got to sit on an empty store for 2 years.
Yep.
So that deal, basically, we did that in May 2020. So when you have a brand, landlords want to speak to you. A 62-year-old restaurateur told me, basically hiding on the couch and said, my life is over. I just lost my Italian restaurant of 35 years. You know what I told them in April 2020? Get your ass off the couch. There's 20 landlords that want to speak to you. Even though that these landlords have taken away everything, they've taken away your business, they've taken away your livelihood, unjustifiably. You have one thing they can't take away, and that's intellectual property. And that intellectual property, just say you had a restaurant for 35 years, well, guess what? You're a dream for a landlord that has an empty restaurant. And then literally 6 months later, he invited me to his opening 6 blocks away from his original restaurant. And at 62 years old, he didn't feel worthless anymore because he realized he has value. And that's what these kind of times do to us. Us restaurateurs have always gotten the crap end of the stick. We're always the target. And it's nice to see that there's silver linings.
John, what's going on with you and your 9 locations?
I'm sorry, Lau?
What's an extension of what Stratus is talking about? What's going on with you in your 9 locations? Are you running into the same kind of problems?
Yeah, I mean, our lobbies were closed until, I don't know, 3 months ago. You know, we just had walk-in and Uber and all the delivery services. And 3 months ago, we opened back our lobbies, and crazy to me, but they're still not even filled. People just don't want to come and sit in. I think they gotten used to, you know, coming in quick, getting the food and leaving. But there's also that mistrust of, if I sit in here, there's other people sitting around me, you know, especially the young kids, because we used to be filled with young kids, and they just don't want to be in that closed environment anymore. So it's drastically changed the business. I mean, we used to, there's good and there's bad. You don't have to have as many people to clean and keep out a lobby, but it's bad because it's a nice environment when you see a full restaurant. You see a closed restaurant, we all know, you know, people walk by, it's closed, there must be something wrong. So it's changed dramatically. Like Stratus, you know, I keep laughing. You say, you don't have 5 people stapling bags, but guess what? I have 5 people stapling bags. You know, and these Uber guys are coming in and out, in and out, in and out all day long. And you don't get that connection anymore. Talk about, Peter talked about changing hospitality. You don't get that customer who comes in anymore, really. Hey, how you doing? How's the day? And you have a little chit chat. Because these guys, these Uber guys are just, there's different ones every single day, all day long.
Not even that, John. Every time we open a Brooklyn dumpling shop by a college, from the 13 to 30-year-old crowd, they actually go like this to the greeter. The greeter's like, hey, your first time here? Let me help you. And they're like, I don't want to talk to you. I already ordered it. I ordered ahead. I just want to go in. But then the 35 and over crowd are like, what do I need, an MIT degree to get a snack or get a meal?
Right,
what is this technology?
Right.
So we always say that the greeter in like the New York City branch, we would actually have 50% of the people walk out if there wasn't a greeter, especially for the 35 and over crowd. Yeah. But the 13 to 30-year-old crowd, they've already placed their order. They put their hand up at the greeter. I'm fine. I know exactly what I want. They were speaking their language. That's what they were brought up on. Even the iPad is obsolete. I mean, they live off their smartphone. They live off QR codes. And you know what? Why not create our restaurants to speak to that generation? Because they got more money than anyone else.
No, absolutely. It does create that problem, though. You have procedures and systems in place, and you're teaching people to be friendly and be polite. But to your point, I don't want to talk to you. So what do I do now as a crew person or a waiter or whatever it may be? But you learn. And again, to Peter, today will be different. Tomorrow will be so different than today, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's the next normal. You know, I stopped calling it the new normal, because by the time you called it the new normal, it became the next normal. Yep. So in the next normal, what do you see going on in the next normal? We've got just a few more minutes here. Why don't we start with Chase? What's the next normal for you?
Well, a centralized production facility with a pretty large network of distribution lockers that are, you know, on other people's or in other people's businesses. They generate traffic. You're sort of piggybacking on their lease terms, which is a little bit of a risk, because you never know, like, if the business is going to go out of business or not. You have to find a new pickup location and all that. But which is why I like Stratus's model, where he owns, you know, the space that, or at least is established in the space already that his lockers are being used. But yeah, centralized production facility, large network of lockers, and then vans delivering directly to those lockers, and you're cutting out, you know, that middleman. Hopefully you can have your own vans and do your own distribution as well. Okay,
John, what is the next normal for you guys, you and Mike?
Well, the next normal for me, McDonald's thing is fading away, because honestly, with everybody in this call, it's changed too much, and I don't like the way it's going. So this is another reason why I got into Viking Pure. And I've bought into these young kids and their passion for changing the world in terms of chemicals. They want to change the world, a lot of things, but I bought into the chemical part, and to eliminate that and be able to help in any small way I can. It's an awesome space to be in. And I think the new normal, is that what we'll call it? The next normal, whatever it is that every single thing we do, you have to think environmentally, because these 13-year-olds and below, that's what they do. They just think environmentally.
Okay. Stratus, what
Yeah,
is the next normal for you?
we have over 150 franchises that are in development across the US. And what we're really excited about is the next layer of technology is that we converted into vending machines. So we're going to launch our dumpling vending machines, which basically steam dumplings through a vending machine that you can do from an app, where you can go right up to the vending machine. So kind of speaking to Chase, could you imagine a vending machine now selling your bread?
Already.
And all we're doing now is we've got meetings with Aramark and Compass and hospitals and bars that don't allow food, or bars that don't have food or don't have a kitchen. We have 100 vending machines that are going to be deployed in the next 12 months. And basically you can get the dumplings, it holds about 68 SKUs, which if you have 6 items, it holds about 11 items of each. And then basically wherever it's housed, they just have to refill them with frozen dumplings into the package, and it steams for 3 minutes. So vending machines is where our future is going. And what's great about vending machines is that, if I'm a franchisee and I own 5 territories, which that's the minimum that we do is 5 territories, that you could actually use your store to refill 10 more vending machines that are inside the university instead of being outside, or inside the hospital, or 5 or 6 bars in your area that don't have a kitchen. So everybody's super excited about it. All our franchisees just can't wait, where they can take a vending machine, rent it for $600-700 a month, and actually place them in all these different places. And that's just an extension of our franchise model. And it's I'm really excited about vending machines and technology.
One quick question for Stratus. What came first, the lockers or the dumplings, or did it all kind of come together at the same point? Like you needed to figure out a good product to distribute. It's
like a jazz musician, right? You got to learn the instrument first before you could create a new type of jazz progression. But my family owned 14 restaurants.
Yeah.
I come from a Greek diner background. So I used to look at a pastrami sandwich bigger than my head, but I had no interest in biting it because I was intimidated by it. Okay. So then I owned Chinese restaurants for like 15, 17 years now. And I got to tell you, when I created Brooklyn Chop House, when I asked my Chinese chefs, when you think of chop house, what do you think of? They said chop suey, chopsticks. You ask me and you, we say lamb chop, pork chop. So I fused those 2 cultures together. And then when it came down to the sandwiches of a chop house, I didn't want to do a traditional sandwich or soup. I wanted to do them in dumplings because I raised 3 children. And I got to tell you, they wouldn't touch fish or vegetables at 5, 6 years old. But when I wrapped it up into a dumpling and I stir fried it, guess what? They were eating fish and vegetables. Mm-hmm. So dumplings to me are such an underservice in the fast food market. Yep. We created our own lane with sandwich dumplings. And we're reimagining not just dumplings, we're reimagining sandwiches. And we're organizing it into a franchise model for expansion.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Fred.
Larry, just a quick point on all of this. One of the things I think it's really interesting is as you move towards these new marketplaces of delivery and to go, it has required a change in the way a kitchen gets designed as well.
100%.
In other words, you need to be able to rebuild a line. You need a line to serve what's going out and a line to serve what's being sold within the restaurant facility as well. And I think you're going to see a lot of change with that.
And Fred, to add to your comment, every Brooklyn dumpling shop will have 3 additional ghost kitchen menus, where basically we are designing menus around the equipment that they already invested in.
Yep.
We don't want them buying any more equipment. The equipment that they already invested in, guess what? They could do a clam bacon in net. It comes from Cisco, It comes frozen. You steam it for 10 minutes. They have no idea that it came out of a Brooklyn dumpling shop, but that's going to be the future. We're doing 3 to 4 menus per dumpling shop. Yes. Just delivery only, not pickup. Yep. Delivery only. And that will maximize our sales.
The other interesting thing too on the vending machine piece as you go forward is the liquor to go law that was passed in New York is going to require that a bar serves food. So this is a great solution to that.
Yeah, you can't give people a piece of bread and a quart of scotch.
So theoretically, Chase could create a sandwich line that could answer that as well.
Right. Little comment from Peter. You got 2 minutes, Peter. Unmute.
Sorry. The future of our industry is so exciting. It's exciting to listen to everyone. I'm amazed where we're ending up and how we're ending up, how we're all merging into each other. Did I ever think 8 years ago, one of our new divisions is in hospitals, organic cafes in a hospital? Never thought of it. It's exciting. It's the first time in my career, my 45-year career, I can't see the future. I can't even understand it at times, but we're all working in it. It's incredible how we're embracing. I love the word that we're embracing, technical hospitality. How does it's not about the hospitality. It's not about the technology. It's about how we serve our clients. It's exciting. Catering is changing. Everything is changing. Now, we're going to work twice as hard. We have a bright future, but we're going to go through some cloudy days before we get to the sunshine.
Okay. I'd like to thank you all for being here today. We did something a little bit different. We talked about the next normal as opposed to the takeaway. But listen, these people are available for you to speak to. If you need to contact any of them, just contact me and I'll put you in touch. We will be back here in 2 weeks. That topic will be how to squeeze $1.25 out of every dollar you spend. Hope to see you all here again. Unfortunately, we lost somebody on the way. His internet went out. I just want to say this to everybody. Thanks for taking the time to spend with us. The points were on target, if not a little nebulous and confusing to old guys like me. But I love it. I love growing with you people. And all I have to say is, and I'm going to get you out on time, Fred, stay positive, test negative. See you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Take care. Have a great day, everyone.